Hello there, and welcome to the Mad Human channel, a quiet place for loud questions, the ones that echo in your head when the world goes still. Whether you're lying in bed after a long day, watching shadows shift on your wall, or just caught in one of those moments where time feels off, I'm glad you're here. Tonight we're stepping into one of the strangest mysteries we all live inside of, time, that invisible thread pulling us forward, 1 second at a time, even when we feel stuck. Why does a summer afternoon as a child feel like forever, but the last 10 years disappear like fog? Why do some moments stretch out endlessly, and others vanish the second they happen? We'll unravel that, slowly, softly, from ticking clocks and Einstein's relativity to the odd way your brain plays tricks on your memories. We'll trace time's outline from physics to feelings. But first, if you're watching from somewhere far away, maybe nestled under soft blankets or sipping something warm by a window, I'd love to know where you are and what time it is right now for you. Funny, isn't it? A video about time, watched at different times, all at once. And if this strange, quiet journey makes you feel a little less alone in the universe, I'd be grateful if you'd tap that like button, or maybe subscribe. It helps this little corner of curiosity find more curious minds like yours. Now, take a breath, slow down, let the clock hands blur. And let's begin with the question we've all asked and never truly answered. What is time? Really, time is strange. Not just because we can measure it in seconds, minutes, and hours, but because we feel it in ways that no clock can capture. It stretches and shrinks, loops and lingers, and sometimes vanishes altogether. You might wake up on a rainy morning and feel like you've slept for days, only to find the sun still hasn't risen. Or blink during a conversation and realize hours have passed. Or spend what feels like an eternity staring at the microwave as it counts down 30 unending seconds. But what exactly are we experiencing? What is time truly? Not the numbers on your phone or the rhythm of a ticking watch, but that deep invisible current we all swim in every single day. To understand time, we have to forget it for a moment. Imagine waking up in a world with no clocks, no calendars, no appointments or alarms. There is only light and darkness, warmth and cold, hunger and sleep. In that world, you would still feel time passing, but not as something fixed. You would sense change, the way your breath comes and goes, the slow bloom of dawn, the shifting shadows across your wall. Time, in its rawest form, is change. A continuous unfolding of one moment into the next. And yet, our minds do something remarkable with this unfolding. They turn it into a story. Every time you remember something, you're not just recalling a fact, you're travelling. Your mind stitches together sights and smells, emotions and echoes, turning moments into narratives. And when you imagine the future, you do the same, building castles in the fog, rehearsing scenes that haven't happened yet. You are the main character, the editor, the archivist, and the prophet of your own timeline. It's not just memory, it's a sensation. A trick, a marvel, a burden, and sometimes it's a mystery so complete that even the sharpest scientists can't quite define it. The philosophers have tried. Some say only the present exists, that the past is gone, a ghost of experience, and the future is nothing but potential. Others believe all of time exists at once, like a great novel, with every moment already written. Your first breath, your last smile, all laid out like pages in a book. In this view, you're not moving through time, you're living in it, already complete, like a photograph you haven't developed yet. But then, why do we feel time moving? Why does the now feel so alive, so urgent, so real? Perhaps it's because of attention. Your brain, that quiet, buzzing organ behind your eyes, is a time machine of its own. When you focus deeply, time evaporates. Hours feel like minutes. You become so absorbed in the moment that the clock disappears. Psychologists call it flow, a state where your mind is completely aligned with the present. It's why artists lose track of time, why children seem to play for eons in a single afternoon, and why lovers can speak for what feels like seconds and realize it's nearly morning. But remove that stimulation, trap yourself in a sterile room, a long wait, a dull meeting, and time begins to crawl. It tugs at you. It becomes a weight. Seconds grow heavy, and each tick of the clock becomes its own thunder. And then there is memory, the architect of retrospective time. Why does childhood feel longer? Why does a week of travel feel more full than a month of routine? It's because novelty stretches time in hindsight. When your brain encounters something new, it lays down more detail, more snapshots, more bookmarks in the reel of your life. A day full of firsts feels longer, because your mind recorded more frames. The result? You look back and feel like that day held more time, but live the same day 100 times, and it compresses into a blur. It's not the day that's shorter, it's your memories of it that's thinner. This is why older people say time speeds up. It's not age, it's repetition. It's the absence of novelty, the sameness of days slipping through fingers like identical grains of sand. But then something shakes the routine. A death, a birth, a pandemic, a heartbreak, a sudden move, and time stutters again. It stretches wide open. You feel it, not in your clock, but in your bones, in your breath, in your heartbeat. Scientists, too, have tried to define time, but it eludes even them. Newton once thought of time as absolute, a steady, unchanging river flowing independently of everything. But Einstein changed the game. He showed us that time is relative, that it bends and warps depending on how fast you move or how close you are to gravity. Time slows near black holes. It stretches as you approach the speed of light. Two people, born at the same moment, could age at different rates if one travelled through space while the other stayed still. The faster you go, the slower your clock ticks. This isn't science fiction. It's measurable. It's been proven. Our satellites account for it every day, adjusting their clocks so your GPS doesn't steer you into a wall. And yet we don't feel these effects. We don't notice our heads aging faster than our feet. But the universe does. Somewhere in the fine print of reality, time is a rubber band, stretching and relaxing, responding to mass and motion. It's woven into the fabric of space, inseparable from dimension itself. Spacetime, as it's called, isn't a backdrop. It's the very stage upon which existence plays out. But why does time move forward? That's the question. Because many of the equations of physics work just as well backwards. The arrow of time, the reason we remember the past but not the future, comes not from the math, but from entropy. The second law of thermodynamics says that systems tend toward disorder. Eggs break but don't unbreak. Smoke rises and doesn't return to the fire. You can mix milk into coffee, but you can't unmix it. This march toward disorder gives time its direction. Entropy is the arrow. The universe started in a low entropy state, a simple, smooth beginning, and ever since it's been unraveling, spreading, mixing, complicating. We live on that arrow, and yet, every night, we lie down, close our eyes, and abandon it. In dreams, time becomes a liquid. You fall asleep and hours pass in what feels like minutes, or vice versa. You leap between scenes. You argue with people who are long gone. You walk through childhood homes. You die and wake up again. In dreams, the brain becomes unshackled from time's linear grip. Neurologically, this may be because our prefrontal cortex, the part that helps us track logic and sequence, goes quiet. But perhaps it's something deeper. A reminder that time as we feel it is not a fixed rule, but a psychological illusion. A necessary one, but an illusion all the same. And then there's trauma, the ultimate time distortion. In moments of danger, your perception slows. Car accidents seem to unfold in slow motion. Not because time changed, but because your brain goes into overdrive, capturing more detail per second. Later, when you recall it, the memory feels longer, more vivid. It's not the seconds that stretched, it's the memory that deepened. Time, it seems, doesn't just exist outside of us. It lives inside of us. It pulses through our biology, our emotions, our stories. And what of cultures? Not everyone sees time the same way. In English, we move forward through time. The future is ahead, the past behind. But in some indigenous languages, like Aymara, the past is in front, it's visible. You can see it. The future is behind, unknown, unseen. Time isn't just a line. Sometimes it's a circle, sometimes a spiral, sometimes, like in dreams, it's a labyrinth. The ancients followed the sky. They watched shadows fall across stone. They charted the moon's waxing and waning. These were the first clocks, not gears and glass, but sunbeams and stars. Time to them wasn't mechanical. It was sacred, ritual. Time told them when to plant, when to fast, when to speak with gods. And in a way, we haven't changed. Our schedules may be digitized, but we still obey unseen rhythms: day and night, hunger and fullness, growth and decay. We are temporal creatures, built to change, built to age, built to vanish. But is time real? Some physicists say it might not be. That time, like temperature or color, is not fundamental. That in the deepest equations describing the universe, time disappears. That perhaps the universe is timeless, and time is an emergent property arising from change. That our experience of past and future is a trick played by our consciousness, a way to make sense of a static, unchanging reality. If that's true, then time is not a thing we move through, but something we create in order to move, and maybe that's why it feels so strange. And still, we try to hold time, to tame it, to freeze it in photographs, to stretch it in stories, to bottle it in journals and mementos and keepsakes. A lock of hair, a fading ticket stub, a scent that takes you back 20 years. These are not just objects, they're time machines. Memory is not a recording, it is reconstruction. Each time you remember something, your brain recreates it from scattered fragments. The memory itself changes slightly, rewritten with every retrieval. In this way, memory is fluid. Time again becomes clay. You might believe your life is a straight path, from cradle to grave in one direction, but the truth is, your mind constantly loops. You live in the past through memory, in the future through imagination, and only occasionally, fleetingly in the now, a breath, a moment of awe, a glance that holds your whole attention. Then the moment slips through, and you're once again lost in the tides. This is why some spiritual traditions speak of being present, because presence is rare. The mind resists it. The mind lives on time. Without it, we would not plan or reflect or learn. But we would also not suffer anticipation or regret. What is anxiety if not a fear of future time? What is sorrow if not the longing for a time that no longer is? Animals experience time differently. A dog does not remember your birthday, but it knows your routine. It knows the rhythm of your steps, the tone of your voice, the smell of morning. Some birds can remember hundreds of hiding places for seeds. Elephants mourn their dead for months. Whales carry songs across oceans, each note a memory. Time, it seems, is not just human, but humans alone built calendars. We alone count the days. We mark our time with celebrations, birthdays, anniversaries, New Year's Eve, each a checkpoint on the river, each one a reminder. You've moved forward. You are not where you once were. Time is both a mirror and a compass. It shows you where you've been and where you are not. Look around your room right now. Every object is a story of time. The cup on the desk was made, dint, chipped. The window was installed, cleaned, dirtied again. Your skin has changed. The walls have settled. Dust drifts in the air, slow as snowflakes. Time is not always loud, it's often quiet. You only notice its passing in the aftermath, and yet, sometimes it roars. The death of someone you love, the birth of a child, a goodbye that turns permanent. These moments slam time into you. They divide your life into before and after. You are marked by them, scarred, strengthened, softened. The arrow of time becomes visible then. It pierces you. And in the quiet afterwards, you try to understand it. You look at old photographs and say, where did the time go? But the answer is always the same. It didn't go anywhere. You did. There are experiments, of course. Scientists have tried to manipulate time, or at least our experience of it. Hypnosis can bend subjective time. Meditation can slow the mind's ticking metronome. Even drugs can distort the sense of duration, some making seconds feel infinite, others making hours vanish in an instant. But always there is a return. The arrow remains. Still, some physicists believe time is an illusion. Julian Barber, for example, proposes a theory where the universe is not a flowing river but a collection of moments, nays, as he calls them, each one complete, eternal, unchanging. We are not moving through time, but hopping between these snapshots, like frames of a film. The motion, the illusion of memory, your mind linking frames, like a flip book that comes alive only in the turning. This theory is beautiful, but terrifying, because it implies that everything that has ever happened is still happening, and everything that ever will happen already exists. You are both alive and dead, young and old, laughing and mourning, somewhere in some frame forever, and yet we feel time, we suffer it, we love through it. If it is an illusion, it is the most convincing one we've ever known. Maybe that's the point. Maybe time is not meant to be understood, but felt, like music. A song played once, never the same again. A sequence of notes that only makes sense when heard in order. Skip ahead and you lose the meaning. Pause it and you lose the emotion. Rewind it and it becomes nostalgia. Let it play and it becomes life. In this way, maybe life is music, and time is the beat. There is a beauty in time's cruelty. It makes every moment precious. If we lived forever, nothing would matter. A sunset would not move us. A goodbye would not sting. A touch would not be urgent. It is precisely because we are running out of time that life becomes sacred. The ticking is not our enemy. It is our canvas. Think of stars. The light from some of them began its journey before you were born. It has been travelling for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years, and only now does it touch your eye. You're seeing the past. The night sky is a history book written in photons. Some of those stars are already gone, but their light remains. This is true of people too. Some voices still echo after the body is gone. In letters, in books, in memories, in recordings, time takes the living. But it leaves shadows, traces, footprints. And perhaps that's all we are. Arrangements of time. You're not your name, you're not your face, you're the story of everything you have ever done, everything you have chosen not to do. Your memories, your dreams, your regrets. You are a thread of time briefly stitched into the fabric of the universe, and you are unravelling. But that's not sad, it's natural, like a snowflake that melts, like a candle that burns, like a breath that exhales. You were never meant to last forever. You were meant to glow. So what do we do with time? We mark it, we waste it, we cherish it, we trade it for money or love or meaning. Some of us try to conquer it, with fame, with children, with monuments. Some of us try to ignore it. But time doesn't need your permission. It moves. And when it ends, we don't know what comes next. That is time's final gift, mystery. Perhaps one day, long after we are gone, someone will find a recording of your voice, or your handwriting, or a smile frozen in a photograph. And in that moment, for a split second, you will live again. A flicker, a ghost made of memory, a ripple of time moving forward, then backward, then gone. So breathe. You're in this moment. That is enough. That is everything. All of the past led to this now. All of the future begins here. You are the meeting point of eternity and change. You are time, folded into form. And yet, even as you sit quietly in this moment, surrounded by soft sounds or gentle stillness, time doesn't pause. It doesn't freeze for reflection or kindness. It flows, not like a stream, but like light, invisible, ever-present, unstoppable, and you flow with it, whether you're aware of it or not. Your cells replicate, your breath rises and falls, your thoughts flicker like lightning across the dark sky of your mind. There is never true stillness. Even in rest, you are in motion. Time pulls at everything, stars and souls alike. Somewhere far away, an ancient glacier is inching forward, a motion so slow it seems still. Somewhere else, a hummingbird flutters its wings 70 times a second. Time holds both. It makes room for the urgent and the eternal. It doesn't choose sides, it doesn't care if you're rushing to catch a train or waiting for someone who never arrives. Time just moves, indifferent and sublime. And yet we map it, we try to own it. Schedules, calendars, countdowns, timelines, all attempts to box the unboxable. But the truth is, no matter how we divide it into decades, hours, milliseconds, time itself is smooth, seamless. The lines we draw are ours, not its. Noon doesn't care that it is 1200, and the moon doesn't rise because your watch says it should. These are our inventions, like trying to draw lines in water. Still, we need those lines. We need to make time feel manageable, digestible. So we make birthdays, due dates, anniversaries. We plan our lives around hours and days, pretending they are solid ground. But time is more like fog. Try to grab it, and it slips through. Try to run from it, and it waits for you. Try to escape it, and you find you're carrying it inside you. Every scar, every wrinkle, every laugh line etched by years of sunlight and sorrow. And what of nostalgia? That bittersweet ache for a time you can never return to. It is the echo of time calling back to you through memory. You revisit old streets, look through childhood windows, hear a song from a decade ago, and something inside you softens. You're there again, not fully, not physically, but deeply, emotionally. Nostalgia is time-wearing perfume, familiar, distant, and impossible to hold. This is why we fear change, because time changes everything. The people we love grow old. The places we cherish crumble or evolve. Even we are not constant. The person you were 5 years ago, gone, replaced by a newer version built from experience, loss, growth, and time. And in 5 more years, this version of you will also disappear. We are, in a very real way, temporary. But there's beauty in that too, because nothing lasts. Everything matters. A single moment of kindness, a quiet morning by yourself, a walk with someone you love, these are not small things. They are everything. They are time transformed into meaning. There are moments when time collapses. You're watching the sun set, and for a breathless instant you forget the ticking. You feel suspended, held. You're not in the past or the future. You're here, fully. Those moments are rare, but they are sacred. They are reminders that life isn't always about what comes next. Sometimes it's about this feeling, this glance, this breath. Scientists once tried to create a perfectly accurate clock. They used vibrations of atoms, cesium to be exact. Atomic clocks, they called them. Unerring, precise, stable. They defined the second by how many times an atom vibrated. But even that perfection exists inside our idea of time. At the smallest scales, where quantum rules dominate, time becomes slippery, uncertain. At Planck time, the smallest measurable unit, we don't even know if time still exists. It may be that time breaks down into grains like sand, or it may be that time is an illusion that only emerges at larger scales, the way temperature emerges from the chaotic dance of molecules. So what is time, truly? A fundamental dimension? A human invention? A byproduct of entropy? A rhythm we're born into? Maybe it's all of these. Maybe time isn't a thing at all. Maybe it's a feeling, like colour, like music, like love. We each carry our own time. A mother feels it differently than her child. A prisoner counts it differently than a dancer on stage. A soldier watches it crawl. A lover sees it fly. A mourner begs it to rewind. We live inside our own versions of time shaped by memory, emotion, culture, and biology. In the end, maybe the best we can do isn't to define time, but to honour it. So honour this moment, not because it is extraordinary, but because it exists, because it is yours, because it will never come again, this breath, this heartbeat, this quiet thought moving through your mind. This is your now, and no matter what clocks say, it is enough. And when it passes, and it will, another will take its place, and another, each one a gift, each one a stepping stone on the invisible path that leads from birth to death, from wonder to wisdom, from confusion to peace. Time may be strange, but it is also beautiful, and for now it is yours. And so we move, not just through hours, but through meanings, through stories, because time isn't only a backdrop, it's a character. A quiet one maybe, but always present, always changing the shape of the story even when we don't see it. Look at an old journal entry, something you wrote a decade ago. You'll see the handwriting, the hopes, the voice of someone you barely recognize. It's still you, but it's not, because time has rewritten you, slowly, steadily, invisibly. You didn't feel it happen, but there it is, written proof you were someone else. Even our bodies hold time, in our bones, in our skin, in the quiet degradation of cells and the soft resilience of healing. Your body remembers things your mind forgets, not in words but in tissue. Scar tissue from a childhood fall, stretched muscles from a life once lived more recklessly, a callus on your finger where a pen once lived, a freckle shaped like a comma, unnoticed until someone you loved pointed it out. These are not marks, these are timestamps, and your DNA, the spiraled ladder tucked into every cell, carries time on a scale longer than your life. It is a message from your ancestors, written in biology, traits passed down not by memory, but by molecule. A smile like your grandmother's, hair like someone you never met, a vulnerability, a resilience, a talent, all handed down through time like whispers. Time even hides in the way we speak. Language bends to it. Some languages treat the future as far away, distant and foggy. Others place it right beside the present. In some tongues, verbs shift depending on how certain you are that something will happen. In others, time is painted in layers: what you expect, what you hope, what you remember. It turns out the way we talk about time changes how we think. Psychologists have studied this, finding that speakers of languages that mark time differently also save money differently, plan ahead differently, fear differently. Language doesn't just describe your time, it helps define your relationship with it. The words we choose create the future we imagine. And what of the universe? When you look at distant galaxies, you're not seeing them as they are, but as they were. Light takes time to travel. The farther away a star, the older the light you see. A galaxy a billion light years away is a billion years old, or rather, the image you see is. That galaxy may not even exist anymore, or it may have become something new, but the light is just now reaching your eyes. In this way, telescopes become time machines, not metaphorically, but literally. We're surrounded by time delays. When you speak to someone on the other side of the world through a satellite, your voice is already milliseconds old. When you touch a hot stove, your brain doesn't register it instantly. Signals must travel. Even in your own mind, time is staggered. You're always slightly behind, a few milliseconds away from now, and yet your brain stitches it all together, creating the illusion of presence, seamlessness. But it's all a trick, a useful one. Time is filled with illusions. Think of how we measure it: seconds, minutes, hours. These are all inventions. Before the clock, people used shadows, the rising and setting sun, the rhythm of birds and tides and hunger. It was enough. Then came the mechanical clock, then the atomic one, then the digital one, counting down to a fraction of a second. But more precision hasn't brought us more peace. If anything, it's made us more anxious. We check the time constantly, as if knowing the hour can give us control, as if the clock can protect us from regret. But often, it only reminds us of what we haven't done. Time used to be a background hum. Now it's a tyrant. How many hours left? How many steps to go? How long will this take? How old are you now? Do you remember where you were at this age? Comparison is time's cruelest trick. It turns life into a race, and races have winners and losers. But life was never meant to be a race, it was meant to be lived. In fits and starts, in breaths and blinks, in deep belly laughs and long, aching silences. The people who seem to understand time the best are often those who've come close to losing it. Survivors of illness, people who've stood beside deathbeds, those who've held a newborn for the first time and felt something shift. Time becomes clearer at the edges, when it's scarce, when it's fragile, when it's slipping away and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And yet, time also heals. Not everything, not always, but it softens, it rounds sharp edges, it muffles echoes, it doesn't erase, but it dims, and in that dimming there is space to grow again, to begin again. Time can be cruel, but it can also be kind. And sometimes, time plays games. You walk into a room and forget why. You dream of a place you've never seen. You feel a sense of déjà vu. The eerie, fleeting certainty that this moment has happened before. Maybe it's a brain glitch. Maybe it's a loop in your mind's software. Or maybe, just maybe, time isn't as linear as we think. Some physicists believe in block time, that past, present and future all exist simultaneously. That time is a landscape, and we're simply moving through it. Others believe that the arrow of time is a human perspective, that at the quantum level events don't have a clear order. Cause doesn't always precede effect. Time at its root might not be directional at all. And if that's true, then maybe your memories of the past are no more real than your dreams of the future. Maybe everything exists at once, and your consciousness is the flashlight sweeping across it. But whether it's real or not, whether it's a trick or a truth, we must live inside it. We are born into time and we dissolve into it. We are shaped by it, worn down by it, lifted by it. So we keep going, one step at a time, 1 second, 1 hour, 1 lifetime. Sometimes it feels fast, sometimes unbearably slow, but it moves and so do we. Some days we resist it. We try to slow it down, we meditate, we breathe, we hold still and hope it pauses with us. Other days we beg it to speed up, to move us past the ache, past the waiting, past the uncertainty. But perhaps the real challenge, the real invitation, is to make peace with time, not to control it, not to beat it, but to move with it, to accept that it doesn't owe us anything, and yet it gives us everything. Time gave you this day, this breath, this moment, and for now, that is enough. Time begins before we do. It begins before thought, before name, before form. Long before your first breath, time had already carved valleys, split continents, and raised stars from dust. And long after your last heartbeat, it will still flow, without pause, without memory. And yet despite this vastness, your small window of awareness, your flicker in the flood, holds meaning. You are a creature of time, shaped by it, bound to it. And still you question it. Still you search for a crack in the hourglass. There's something both beautiful and tragic about that. That we live each day with the certainty that we are running out of days, and yet we still waste time like it's infinite. We postpone joy, we defer dreams, we say someday as if we are owed one. But time doesn't wait for your perfect schedule. It passes quietly, on rainy Tuesdays and sunlit Sundays alike. It does not care if you are ready, it simply moves. And while we try to capture it, in videos, journals, portraits and calendars, time remains wild. You can't rewind a conversation, you can't unsay a goodbye, you can't pause a moment no matter how much it means to you. And yet we keep trying. We take photos, trying to trap light in pixels, we record voices, trying to save the sound of someone's laugh. We write letters to people who may never read them. These are all attempts to negotiate with time, and in some small way they work. Because sometimes a photo does bring someone back, sometimes a song does take you home. But deep down we know nothing replaces presence, not memory, not memento, not imagination. The real thing, the real now, is irreplaceable. It's why grief hurts. Not because we can't remember them, but because we can't reach them. Grief is time's sharpest lesson, that every presence is temporary and every moment is a door that only opens once. And yet, what a gift. That anything exists at all, that time indifferent and tireless allows for the brief miracle of being, for consciousness, for connection, for art and music and language, for love, even if it fades, for life, even if it ends. Perhaps that's why time feels strange, because we are both in it and aware of it. No rock questions the days, no flame considers its end, but we know we are passing. We know the clock is ticking. We live in constant translation, from future to past, through the razor-thin moment called now. The human brain is not built to understand time, not really. We can track rhythms, feel sequences, remember and anticipate, but we can't see time, not like we see space. We can't move backward. We can't freeze. Time is a river we can't swim upstream. We don't even know what it flows through. And yet, we feel it. We're haunted by it. And maybe that's because we don't experience time equally, not just between people, but within ourselves. The first time you fall in love, time moves differently. It quickens and slows unpredictably. The first time you lose someone, the days stretch into unbearable hours, but the 10th heartbreak, the 3rd funeral, time behaves differently then. Familiar pain moves faster, not easier, but quicker. Even time learns, it seems. There are cultures that don't treat time as linear at all. The Hopi people of the American Southwest don't divide the world into past, present, and future. Their language treats all events as part of an unfolding, not something that was or will be, but something that is happening. In this view, time is not a road you walk, but a storm you're standing in. It moves around you, it happens to you, and maybe that's not wrong, because modern physics, especially quantum mechanics, tells us that the idea of a single universal now may be an illusion. In Einstein's universe, simultaneity is relative. What is now for you may not be now for someone else moving at a different speed or sitting near a black hole. This is not poetry, it is physics. The idea of one shared timeline may be nothing more than a convenience, a simplification for human minds. At the smallest scale, the quantum world, time gets even stranger. Particles don't follow strict sequences. Sometimes effects seem to happen before causes. Particles entangle, linked across distance, and a change in one instantly affects the other, regardless of time or space. It's as if the universe is playing by rules we don't yet understand, or perhaps rules we can't. In this strange realm, the arrow of time becomes blurry. Time might not be a basic ingredient of reality, but a side effect, something that emerges only when we zoom out far enough. The way temperature doesn't exist in a single atom, but only in collections. Maybe time is a collective hallucination, born of complexity, or maybe it's as real as gravity, but we're just too entangled in it to see clearly. The truth is, we don't know what time is. We only know what it does. It ages us. It changes things. It allows for cause and effect. It prevents everything from happening at once. In a sense, time is the price we pay for meaning. Without it, nothing could grow, nothing could learn, nothing could matter. But if time is real, and also flexible, what does that mean for us? If you could move through time, would you? Would you revisit a perfect summer evening from your childhood? Would you stop a mistake, hold someone longer, or would you look ahead into a future that hasn't yet hardened into fact? The idea is tempting, and yet the ability to change the past, or know the future, would change you. Would you still take risks? Would you still forgive? Would you still love, knowing exactly how and when it ends? Time's mystery is part of what makes life bearable. We don't know how long we have, we don't know what's coming, and so we try, we hope, we risk, we endure, and we dream. Dreams, perhaps, are our mind's way of tasting other timelines. In dreams, time fractures. A moment lasts an hour. A decade collapses into a second. You are old and young, alive and gone. Time is paint, and your sleeping mind is the artist. Some dreams feel like memories of places you've never been. Others feel like previews of lives you might yet live. And sometimes, a dream shows you something simple, the face of someone you miss, the sound of laughter you thought you'd forgotten, and you wake up with tears you don't understand. That too is time. Even our bodies obey clocks. Not just the kind we wear on our wrists, but internal ones. Circadian rhythms, biological timers. Your body knows when to wake, when to sleep, when to heal, when to die. Time moves in your blood, in your bones, in the ticking of your cells. Jet lag is not just fatigue, it's your body's confusion about what time it is. And when your rhythms are broken by grief, by illness, by stress, time feels different. Some days never end, others vanish before you've noticed them. Your perception warps with your chemistry. You can't trust the clock when your heart is offbeat. Time even bends with emotion. Love makes hours feel like minutes. Boredom turns seconds into stones. Fear stretches moments into slow motion. Pain lingers long after the cause is gone. Joy disappears before you can name it. Why is it that the moments we most want to last are always the ones that pass the quickest? And still, we try to hold them. In poems, in prayers, in stories told again and again until they feel eternal. Because that's what we really want. Not more time, but more meaning in time. Not longer lives, but deeper ones. Not endless hours, but unforgettable ones. And maybe that's enough. And so we build rituals, not because they stop time, but because they honor it. The lighting of a candle on a birthday cake, the turning of a tassel at graduation, the slow steps of a funeral procession. These are moments when we look time in the eye and say, I see you, I know you're moving, but I am here and I will remember this. In that way, rituals become anchors. They keep us from drifting too far. They remind us that life is not just a blur of minutes, but a pattern, a rhythm, a dance with time. And perhaps that's what art really is, our attempt to pin time to the wall, a song that captures a summer, a painting that holds a feeling, a film that freezes a goodbye, a poem that makes grief speak. These are not decorations, they are time capsules. They are the echoes of emotions once felt, carefully wrapped in words or colours or sound, preserved for someone else to open someday somewhere. And maybe that someone is you right now. Maybe this moment, listening, breathing, reflecting. Maybe this is a kind of time travel, because this isn't just about science. This isn't just about physics or memory or clocks. This is about you, the way you feel the years in your chest, the way your past still sits in the corners of your mind, the way your future whispers your name in quiet moments. Time is not just outside of you. It is you. Your body, your choices, your regrets, your hopes, all strung together like beads on a thread you cannot see but always feel. We speak of spending time, but the metaphor is flawed. Money can be saved, re-earned, stored away. Time cannot. You cannot unuse a minute. You cannot borrow a year. All you can do is use it or lose it, and even then you may not know which you've done until much later. This is why silence can be so powerful. In a world obsessed with filling time, with productivity, noise, content, silence becomes sacred. Stillness becomes resistance. To sit without distraction and simply augusta is to reclaim time from the world, to make it yours again, to feel every breath not as a countdown but as a miracle. And yet, we rarely do. We chase, we scroll, we fill, because stillness makes us aware. And awareness brings grief. The grief of moments already gone, of chances not taken, of time we didn't know we were spending until the receipt arrived. And yet, it's never too late. That's one of time's quieter mercies. It keeps giving you now. No matter how many nows you've wasted, there is always another arriving. You can begin again. You can forgive. You can remember differently. You can reach out even if it's been years. You can look up and see the sky and realize that you are somehow still here, still breathing, still able to move forward even if slowly. Because forward is all we get. There is no backward, only memory, only story. And our stories shape time as much as time shapes us. We look at our lives and create arcs, beginnings, middles, ends. But the truth is, life rarely follows that script. Sometimes things begin again in the middle. Sometimes endings come without warning. Sometimes nothing makes sense until long after. We are always living in drafts, always rewriting the past with the ink of the present. Memory is not a record, it is a mirror, warped by feeling, softened by distance. You don't remember facts, you remember impressions, emotions, angles, smells, the way the light hit their face when they said goodbye. The sound of your father's laugh, even if you forget the joke. Time leaves fingerprints, faint, fuzzy, but unmistakable. Wind, it moves in one direction, and it carries us whether we lean into it or not. And in our final moments, when the clock is truly winding down, it's rarely time itself we think about. It's how we spent it, who we loved, who loved us, the simple days, the ones we didn't even realize were important at the time. A dinner with friends, a walk through a city you barely knew you'd miss, the touch of someone's hand at the right moment. Time, then, is not just motion, it is meaning. It is the weight we give to each second, whether by accident or intention. You can't stretch time, but you can deepen it. Two people can live the same number of years, and yet one may have truly lived, while the other merely counted. The difference? Presence, risk, love, attention. Because attention is what makes time real. That's the secret. The more present you are, the more you feel each moment. The more you rush, the more it blurs. The more you slow down, the more it expands. Time is elastic in the hands of the mind. 10 minutes in silence can feel eternal. 10 hours in distraction can disappear like smoke. So maybe the way to live more is not to add years, but to inhabit the ones you already have, to notice the way the wind feels on your skin, to taste your coffee instead of gulping it, to really look someone in the eyes when they speak, to let music move you, to let grief break you open, to let joy in, even if it's fleeting. And it is fleeting. That's the point. That's the beauty. That's the cost. Everything you love will change or end, but not yet. Not now. Right now there is breath and silence and possibility. This is the moment you will look back on someday, and you will wonder, did I pay attention? Was I there? Let the answer be yes. Because this strange, quiet, beautiful now is the only time that ever really exists. There's something sacred about realizing how brief it all is, not in a morbid way, but in a reverent one, like holding a snowflake on your fingertip. You don't curse it for melting, you marvel at the fact that it landed at all, that for one suspended moment, it was yours. Time is like that. It doesn't last, but it arrives. And if you're awake, if you're really awake, you can catch it. Just for a breath. This is why old people seem to speak slower, move slower, linger longer, not because they have less time, but because they've finally learned the trick, that rushing doesn't buy you more life, it just makes the life you have feel thinner. So they sit, they listen, they take longer to answer, they tell you the same story again, not because they've forgotten, but because they remember so deeply that they want you to feel it too. And children, they live in time the way fish live in water, completely immersed. Every moment is endless. A minute of waiting feels like a year. An afternoon feels like a novel. They haven't yet learned to segment time, to weaponize it, to worry about it. They just live, fully, wildly, innocently. Maybe the truth lies in both directions, the very old and the very young. One learning to let go, the other still untouched by urgency. In between, we forget, we measure, we budget, we multitask, we race. And sometimes in our rush to save time, we lose it entirely. But not now, not here. Right now you are breathing in rhythm with these words. And in this strange connection between you and this story, time softens. It becomes less of a measurement and more of a melody. You are listening or reading, not just to understand, but to feel. That's what we've been doing all along, isn't it? Not analysing time, but feeling it. Letting it pass through us like a breeze we can't hold but can still be moved by. The scientists will keep studying it. The clocks will keep ticking, the calendars will keep flipping, but none of them will explain the way time feels when someone you love laughs for the first time in weeks, or when a sunset paints your window the colour of longing, or when a song from years ago makes you cry and you don't know why. These moments, the ones without explanation, are the ones that truly mark time, not in numbers, but in impact. So maybe that's how we make peace with it, not by mastering time, but by marking it, not by making it last, but by making it count. We don't need to do more. We need to notice more, remember more clearly, forget more kindly, and when we let go, do it slowly and with love, because time doesn't belong to us, but we belong to it, just like the stars, just like the tide. And when we're gone, it will keep going. And maybe that's okay, maybe that's enough. Because if we live well, with depth, with presence, with gentleness, then time, however fleeting, was never wasted. It was written, it was lived, it was real. And so the clock keeps ticking, not as a threat, but as a heartbeat. The rhythm of the world, the reminder that yes, everything ends, but also everything begins, over and over and over again. Take a breath, you're here, this is your time, and it's beautiful, and even as we reflect on it, we are using it. Even now, with every passing syllable, time is moving forward, not because you can see it, but because you can feel it. The weight of this moment, the quiet understanding that settles like dust on your shoulders, is time made visible. And maybe that's the most we'll ever get. Not answers, but awareness. Not mastery, but mindfulness. Somewhere right now the world is turning, clouds are crawling across a sky that never really stops. A glacier creaks, a child is being born. Somewhere a person is closing their eyes for the last time. All of it is happening now, all of it is part of the same breath. You are not outside of time, you are woven into it. A thread in the tapestry, and that's not small, that's miraculous. We think of time as a line, one long path marked with milestones and dotted with memories, but maybe it's more like a spiral, returning, reshaping, revealing. Maybe the same lessons come back to us in different forms. Maybe we fall in love with the same soul more than once in a lifetime. Maybe grief too has its seasons. Maybe joy does not vanish, but hibernates. And maybe, just maybe, time is not something we lose. Maybe it's something we become. Maybe all the versions of you, the child, the teenager, the wanderer, the skeptic, the believer, still exist. Not in a mystical way, in a very real one. They exist in the way you speak, in the way you flinch when you hear a certain song, in the way you love more carefully now, in the way you smile less easily, but more honestly. Time leaves marks, but it also gives gifts, wisdom that hurts before it helps, patience that was once impatience, kindness grown from pain. Every year you live carves you a little deeper, but also makes you a vessel, container for light, for laughter, for love. You carry more now, you leak more now, but you shine more now too. And when you sit with someone, really sit, and tell them your story, you are doing something holy. You are sharing time, your time. You're giving them more than just words. You're handing them pieces of yourself shaped by days they'll never see, by choices they'll never understand. And when they listen, really listen, they receive you. Not just your voice, but your history. And that's how time becomes shared. That's how we stitch ourselves into each other. Because no one gets through time alone. We mark each other. In passing glances, in deep friendships, in heartbreaks and handholds and hard conversations. Every person you've ever loved, even briefly, lives inside your concept of time. Your personal calendar, the way you say, "That was the year I met her," or "That was the summer I changed." These are not dates. They are coordinates of transformation, and in the quiet, late at night, you might find yourself whispering to the past, to a younger version of you, still waiting, still unsure, and maybe that voice, distant but familiar, will whisper back. Maybe that's how time folds. Maybe that's how healing travels backwards, like warmth returning to cold hands, even if only for a moment. There is a strange comfort in knowing that one day someone may think of you and not feel pain. That time may soften your absence, not by forgetting you, but by integrating you. That your voice will live on in their stories, your quirks in their habits, your wisdom in their choices. That your time, however brief, will ripple, because nothing is truly lost, only transformed. The star you see tonight may already be gone, and yet its light still travels. The song you heard as a child may not play again, but its melody still echoes in your mind. The person you were 5 years ago may not exist, but their courage brought you here. This, then, is time's greatest trick: to take from us everything but give back meaning, to wear us down but raise us up, and to pass through us but leave us more whole than we began. And in the end, when we are down to our final seconds, it won't be about the hours worked or the years measured. It will be about the time we gave, the time we felt, the time we were present. It will be about the moments that moved us, that shaped us, that revealed us, that made us more human. So don't rush, don't count, don't measure your life in numbers. Measure it in presence, in moments like this one, moments that whisper, "You're here," and that is enough. Time is the grandest mystery, not because it hides, but because it is always right here, flowing through everything, through planets and puddles, through galaxies and grains of sand. It is the quiet metronome of the universe, ticking without need for applause. We look at stars and say they are ancient, as if age itself were something to be seen. But what we are seeing is not their age. We are seeing their memory, the memory of light, travelling across millions of years to reach us in the now. And what a now it is! You are alive in a universe 13.8 billion years old. Your bones are made of stardust. Your atoms once forged in suns. You're not separate from time, you're born of it. You're an unfolding chapter in a story older than memory. Every breath you take is new, but also ancient. Every thought you think has roots buried in centuries of language, of longing, of evolution. And when you consider the scale, not just human history, but cosmic time, the centuries collapse into seconds. The dinosaurs walked the earth for 65 million years. Modern humans have been here for perhaps 300,000. Your life? Maybe 80, maybe 90 years. A blink, a flicker, a shimmer on the edge of forever. And yet, this flicker feels eternal. Because for you, it is. This is the only life you know, the only time you will live inside, this narrow corridor of now. It is everything. The earth too has its clocks, not ticking ones, geological ones, the shifting of tectonic plates, the rise and fall of ice ages, the slow dance of continents over eons. Mountains form and crumble, oceans expand and vanish. Even time moves differently for the land beneath our feet. To a mountain, a decade is a breath. To a tree, 100 years is a season. But to us, a year can hold everything. Birth, love, loss, wonder. We are creatures of urgency, walking across the skin of deep time. And maybe that's why time feels strange. Because we are trying to measure eternity with a stopwatch. We're trying to make sense of something infinite through calendars and planners. We try to fit the ocean into a cup and wonder why it spills. But what if we stopped trying to measure time and started listening to it? There is time in wind, in the way it rustles through leaves and rearranges the world without asking. There is time in waves, lapping the same shore in new rhythms each day. There is time in the beating of a bird's wings, in the melting of snow, in the shifting of your shadow across a sidewalk, and all of it is now. Never again this exact pattern. Never again this precise moment. You don't need a clock to know this. Your body knows it. Your breath knows it. Even your soul knows it. Because time is not something to watch. It's something to become. and in becoming it we come closer to something sacred. Some say time is God, that the divine is not a person or a force, but the very unfolding of reality itself. Every second a sacred act, every moment a miracle. Others say time is an illusion, a useful fiction created by consciousness to navigate existence, that there is no before or after, only is. And still others believe time loops, that we live our lives again and again, endlessly reborn into the same script, hoping one day to get it right. No one knows for sure, and maybe that's the point. Time is not here to be solved, it is here to be felt, like love, like awe, like the hush before a stormer. Think of how time bends in crisis. A car crash, a sudden fall, a gasp. Everything slows. Your senses sharpen. You feel every detail. Your mind expands a moment into an eternity. Not because time changed, but because you did. You became more aware, more present, and that presence bent time to your attention. Now imagine if we lived like that, not in crisis, but in consciousness. If we met each moment as if it were the only one, because in truth, it is. That's the secret every mystic has tried to whisper, that the past is gone and the future does not yet exist, that all you ever have is now, and now, and now, a string of pearls slipping through your fingers, each one radiant, each one vanishing. And what do we do with this knowledge? We mourn, we celebrate, we hold tighter, we forgive more, we love deeper. Because the awareness of time is what makes us human. A dog does not dread tomorrow, a tree does not mourn yesterday, but we are suspended between what was and what might be. And in that suspension we build stories. We ask questions, we make art, we fall apart and come back together. We write poems about time like this one, right now. And even as we speak of it, it's moving. The earth spins, your cells renew. Somewhere someone is being born, somewhere else someone is letting go. This is the rhythm of existence, this is the music of time. You may never understand it fully. No one ever has. Not philosophers, not scientists, not prophets or poets. But you don't need to understand a sunset to be moved by it. You don't need to explain a heartbeat to be grateful for it. And you don't need to solve time to live well inside it. You just have to notice. Notice the way your body stretches in the morning. Notice the way your voice changes when you're tired. Notice the quiet between your thoughts. Notice the way someone looks at you when they think you're not watching. Notice how fast a season turns from bloom to frost. Notice how your favourite song feels different every year. Notice how you are different every year. Because that difference, that quiet continual change, is the signature of time. It is always moving, and so are you. And that's not something to fear, that's something to honour. And so we walk forward, moment by moment, never really knowing how many we'll get. We walk with open hands, trying not to clutch too tightly, though sometimes we do. We try to hold on to people, to seasons, to versions of ourselves that are already fading in the distance. But time is not a staircase you can climb backward. It is a yet this is what gives it meaning. If time were endless for us, we might never notice the light in another's eyes. We might never pause to appreciate the way someone's laughter brightens a room. We might never say I love you with the urgency it deserves. But because we know, deep in our bones, that nothing lasts forever, we soften, we look longer, we listen better, we say the words we might otherwise say for some later that may never come. In this way, time teaches us to be kind, to be brave, to be real. And even when we forget, time gives us reminders. A birthday, a death, a photograph found in a drawer, a letter written long ago. These are not just markers, they are invitations to return to ourselves. To remember that we are not just passing through life, we are leaving something behind. Legacy is time's echo, not in money or monuments, but in how we made people feel, in the stories others will tell when they speak our name, in the small, quiet ways we shape someone else's world. You may never be remembered by millions, but you may be remembered by one, and for them, your time here will have meant everything. And what of time after us? The stars will keep burning, the oceans will still rise and fall, the earth will continue spinning, not even pausing to note our absence. We are brief visitors on a long journey, but brief does not mean unimportant. Fireflies shine for seconds, and yet we marvel at them. Some flowers bloom only once, and still we protect them. Our lives are no less beautiful because they are short. If anything, their brevity is their brilliance. Time is not fair. It does not distribute itself evenly. Some live long and quiet lives. Others are taken too soon. Some get decades to figure it out. Others must find meaning in a single fragile year. But whatever time you're given, it is yours to shape, to spend, to feel. And when your time ends, what remains is not what you took, but what you gave. A laugh shared, a hand held, a truth spoken, a silence kept. These become the seeds you leave behind, planted in the gardens of others' lives. And they grow. Long after you're gone, they bloom. This is how time remembers us, not as names carved into stone, but as ripples in the hearts of others. And when the moment comes, that final breath, time will not ask for receipts. It will not show you a list of accomplishments. It will not care how much you earned or achieved. It will show you a collage of moments, the ones where you were most alive, most awake, most you. And in that stillness, perhaps just for a heartbeat, everything will make sense. And then it will be gone. But before that, you still have time. Time to look at the sky and wonder what's out there. Time to call someone you miss. Time to read a book slowly, with no purpose but pleasure. Time to let yourself feel joy without guilt. Time to forgive someone who never asked. Time to become a version of yourself you've always imagined. Time to be still. Not waiting, not counting, just being. Because presence is the deepest kind of time, the kind that does not move too fast or too slow, but just is, steady, gentle, enough. And maybe that's the answer we've been circling all along, that time is not a question to be answered, but a companion to be welcomed. It walks beside you always, quiet, patient, sometimes unnoticed. It does not rush, it does not pause, but it does respond. To attention, to gratitude, to love. So greet it, meet your time with open eyes, with an open heart, not as something to conquer, but as something to befriend. Because this soft and fleeting lifetime is your time, and it is enough. And as we move closer to the edge of understanding, something remarkable begins to happen. Time stops feeling like a line and starts to feel like a mirror, a reflection of how we live, how we pay attention, how we carry pain and how we let go. For some, time is a shadow, for others it is a teacher. And for the few who learn to listen, time becomes a friend, not because it gives answers, but because it shows up every single day, faithful and honest even when we aren't. Time does not need to explain itself, it simply unfolds, and as it does, it reveals who we are, in how we show up for each other, in what we choose to make sacred. A dinner shared without phones, a conversation that lingers long past midnight, a quiet walk in the rain. These are the places where time softens, where it becomes more than duration and turns into depth. And it is here, in this quiet recognition, that time begins to heal. Not by erasing the wounds, but by widening the frame. What hurt yesterday may still hurt today, but over time that pain becomes part of a larger story. A scar that sings of survival. A chapter that does not define the book. We grow not just with time, but because of it. We become patient, we become softer in the right ways, sharper in others. The people we used to be become voices in the distance, not lost, but transformed. They are not ghosts, they are layers. They shape the current version of you and they rest quietly beneath your skin like fossilized light. Sometimes when you're still enough, you can feel them. The echoes of old versions of you, the one who believed in forever, the one who left when it was hard, the one who stayed too long, the one who began again. They do not haunt you, they honor you, they remind you that time didn't just pass, it built you. And time continues, always. Even when we sleep, time dreams with us. It arranges memories like constellations. It washes our minds clean so we can begin again. It restores what we didn't know was broken. Sleep is not the absence of time, it is time's sanctuary. The place where hours don't matter, and yet everything changes. Even death, when it comes, is not time's enemy. It is its final punctuation, the full stop that gives the sentence meaning. It is not a failure of time, it is time's greatest mercy, that nothing lasts forever, that everything, even the deepest suffering, has an end. And so too does joy, which is why we must hold it when it comes, not tightly, not possessively, but with reverence. As you would hold a snowflake, a newborn, a whispered secret, you hold joy with awareness that it is brief, and in doing so it becomes infinite, because that is time's secret. What is noticed becomes timeless. The first kiss, the final hug, the day you decided not to give up, the sound of someone calling your name just before you fell apart or came back together. These are not hours, these are eternities disguised as minutes, and you have lived them. You will live more. Maybe not perfect ones, maybe not easy ones, but real ones. And that is more than enough. Time will move, it will not slow down or speed up to meet you, but you can change the way you walk with it. You can stop running, you can stop fearing, you can stop measuring and start being. Because you are not late, you are not early, you are right on time and right here, right now, still breathing, still becoming, still held in the arms of this strange invisible river called time that does not carry you away, but carries you into yourself. And if you listen carefully and in the quiet between heartbeats, you might just hear it. Not a ticking clock and not a racing countdown, but a whisper, a presence, a knowing, telling you you're not out of time and you are time and you are just beginning. And as the light of all this reflection fades into stillness, you may begin to notice. Time was never just out there. On your phone, in your watch, on the wall, it was always inside you. Not ticking, but breathing. Not measuring, but remembering. A presence so constant you forgot it was there. Until something happened, a goodbye, a song, a chance encounter, and suddenly time became visible again. You felt its weight. You felt its gift. You realized that everything you've ever loved has happened within time's embrace. Every first step. Every laugh you can't forget. Every moment that shaped you, even the ones that hurt, they all arrive through this invisible gatekeeper, asking only that you be here when they pass through. And maybe that's what time wants from us, not obedience, not worship, but attention. Maybe all time asks is that we notice it, that we wake up, that we stop sleepwalking through our days like they are infinite, and start living as if they are sacred, because they are. This day, this exact one you're in, has never happened before, and it will never come again. The way the sky looks right now, the feeling in your chest, the sounds around you, the thoughts in your head. This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience wearing the disguise of an ordinary Tuesday or Thursday or Sunday afternoon. But there is no ordinary day. There is only this moment, once, and that's not a reason to panic. That's a reason to pause, to breathe, to soften your gaze and notice how alive the world still is, even when you're tired, even when you're hurting, even when you're unsure. The trees are still moving, the air is still shifting, the world is still turning, and you are still here. Still part of this long, slow dance of existence, still allowed to wonder, still allowed to hope. Time will not stop, but you can, just for a moment, long enough to hear your own heartbeat, long enough to watch the clouds shift, long enough to remember that you are not behind or ahead or lost. You are right where you need to be, right on time. And in this final breath of this journey, this winding trail of thought and reflection, let it land softly inside you. The understanding that time does not need to be solved, it does not need to be fought, it does not even need to be explained, it only needs to be honoured. And so when you look at the clock next, don't ask what time it is. Ask instead, how do I feel right now? Where am I really? What does this moment want from me? Because that is the real measure of time, not the hours you collect, but the ones that change you, the ones that open you, the ones that stay. And so, as we close this chapter, as the story of time itself dissolves back into silence, may you carry something with you. Not answers, not rules, just awareness, a quiet knowing that you are made of time, that you move through time and that you matter, not because time is long, but because you are here, and that is enough. Now take a breath. Close your eyes if you'd like. Feel the weight of your body and feel the softness of this moment, and let go. Because time will take care of the rest. And maybe the deepest truth of time is this. It cannot be held, but it can be honoured. It cannot be paused, but it can be felt. Time doesn't wait for permission, and it doesn't ask for forgiveness, but it does respond to your presence, like a shadow that sharpens when you step into the light. Most people think the opposite of time is stillness, but stillness isn't time's opposite, it's its gateway. When you are still, when you are quiet, when you simply sit and exist without expectation, time doesn't vanish, it reveals itself. In the creak of a wooden floor, in the hum of your own breath, in the long golden pause between thoughts. This is where time becomes visible, not in motion, but in meaning. And meaning is not something you chase, it is something you feel. It's the look on your mother's face when she first saw you graduate. It's the crack in your voice when you say goodbye but can't quite let go. It's the sound of your father's footsteps coming down the hall when you were young. It's the way your friend said your name when you were lost, and it pulled you back to yourself. These are not memories. They are monuments in your timeline. Places you visit, places you carry. Time didn't steal them, it preserved them, it wove them into you. And there is something else about time we forget. It does not only go forward, it loops, it circles, it repeats. You may leave a place only to return years later, realizing the scent of that street, the tilt of the sun on that corner, has been sitting quietly inside you all along. You may meet someone new and feel something ancient stir, a recognition, a rhythm you can't explain. Not because you've lived this before, but because time doesn't always move in straight lines. Sometimes it spirals, sometimes it echoes. And in those echoes we find the mysteries we cannot name, that feeling that you were meant to be here, that sense that a dream is more than a dream, that strange moment where the future feels familiar. What if time is more than duration? What if time is a language? And what if the way we feel and love and lose and remember is how we speak it? Because time does not just move through us, we move with it. We shape it with our attention, our choices, our surrender. Time is a sculptor, yes, but we are its hands too. And if you've ever changed someone's life, even in the smallest way, you've altered time. Their timeline will never be the same, and neither will yours. This is how legacies are written, not in books or bronze statues, but in the softened hearts of others, in lives rerouted, in quiet decisions made in your memory, in love that lingers long after you've gone. So then, what is time? It is the ripple in the pond, the glint in a child's eye when they understand something for the first time. The wind that carries your name across a canyon years after your voice is gone. Time is not just what passes, time is what remains. And maybe time doesn't end. Not really. Maybe it changes form. Maybe when our clocks stop, our stories don't. Maybe they continue, not in chapters, but in echoes, not in calendars, but in constellations. Maybe time bends toward memory. Maybe time is memory, and maybe the universe itself, every star, every shadow, every silence, is just one long memory remembering itself. And you are a line in that memory. You are not forgotten. You never will be. And if you listen closely now, not just with your ears, but with your whole being, you may realize that time has never been your enemy. The ticking that once made you anxious is the same rhythm that gave you every first kiss, every sunrise, every second chance. Time never tried to steal from you. It gave you a stage, a canvas, a current to drift on, and yes, sometimes that current pulled you under. But it also carried you forward, even when you weren't paddling. And maybe, if you're honest, time was there for your best moments. Time is the reason laughter echoes, the reason grief softens, the reason memories exist at all. Without time, joy would be meaningless because it would have no contrast. Without time, love would be static, unchanging, unmoving. But because of time, love grows, love leaves, love returns, and we become bigger each time it does. What time asks of you is simple. Be present. Not always, not perfectly, just sometimes. When the coffee is warm and the sun hits the wall just right. When a friend says something that makes your whole soul feel seen. When a song catches your breath in your throat. These are not small moments. These are time's quiet invitations. Answer them, not by capturing them, not by rushing to make them permanent, but by being inside them completely. Because the truth is, we don't need to conquer time, we just need to dance with it. Let it move through us. Let it teach us what it means to be truly alive. Because isn't that what we're really chasing? Not more time, but more life inside the time we're given. And that life, that depth, that presence is always within reach. Even now, especially now. So breathe in and feel this moment, not as a measurement, but as a miracle, because it is. And maybe when everything else falls away, when the noise dims, the work is done, and you're left with only your breath, what you're really feeling isn't loneliness. It's time. Time sitting beside you in the silence. Time holding all your regrets and your memories like pages from a worn journal. Time looking at you not with judgment, but with patience. Because time does not hurry you. It does not demand that you have everything figured out by 30 or 40 or 50. It does not measure your worth in deadlines or checklists. That is the world's voice, not time's. Time simply waits. Time gives you space. Time lets you try again, and again, and again. Maybe that's why the best moments in life always feel timeless. Not because they escape time, but because they merge with it. They stop feeling like seconds or minutes or hours and start feeling like truth. The kind of truth you don't need to explain. The kind that simply is, like the way someone looks at you when you're not speaking, but they understand, or the way a certain place makes your chest feel lighter, even if you don't know why. Those moments, they are not outside of time, they're made of it. Time crystallized into presence, time distilled into feeling, time wrapped in stillness. And just as we carry time forward, sometimes time carries us. Through grief we weren't sure we'd survive, through change we didn't think we could face, through years that felt empty until suddenly they didn't. You think you're moving through time, but sometimes time is the one carrying you, quietly, faithfully, waiting for you to catch your breath. And when you finally do, when you look back at all the versions of yourself you've been, the ones who stumbled, the ones who ran, the ones who held on too tightly or let go too soon, try not to be harsh, try not to judge. Those selves were doing their best with what they knew, with the time they had, and they brought you here. So thank them, and keep going, because you're not done yet. You still have sunsets to witness, people to love, quiet mornings to savour, books to read slowly, roads to walk without knowing the destination. You still have time, maybe not forever, but enough. Enough to make something beautiful out of your minutes. Enough to say what matters. Enough to live not just a long life, but a full one. And in the end, that's all time asks of us. Not to rush, not to hoard, but to be here, while we're here, to notice and to feel, to leave something behind that matters, even if no one else sees it. Because time sees it, and time remembers. So if you find yourself lost, drifting between yesterday's weight and tomorrow's unknown, come back here. Come back to this breath, this room, this moment, because time lives here too, not just in your past and not only in your future. It lives now. It's hiding in the steam that rises from your tea, in the pause between heartbeats, in the quiet knowledge that you are simply still alive, and that is not a small thing. Because life is not made of years, it is made of moments, some loud, some soft, some that arrive unnoticed and leave unforgettable. And the beautiful, heartbreaking truth is, you never know which one you're in right now. This could be the last time you see that face, or the first time someone falls in love with yours. You could be passing a stranger who will one day become your whole world, or letting go of someone who once was. Time doesn't warn you, it only gives. And when the moment passes, as all of them do, it never truly leaves. It becomes a part of you, carried in memory, in sensation, in the subtle shaping of who you now are. That's why you don't have to rush to do everything at once. You don't need to run ahead in search of the next big thing. You're allowed to be where you are, unfinished, uncertain, unfolding. Because time isn't just something that ticks away. Time is something you grow inside of, like soil, like music, like love. You don't need to master time, you just need to trust it. Because even when you think nothing is happening, time is working in you, healing what you didn't realize was broken, softening what was hard, calling in people you haven't met yet, rearranging things in the dark, not punishing, not rushing, just unfolding. And one day, maybe soon, you'll wake up and realize you are no longer waiting, no longer aching. That time didn't take something from you. It gave you space, it gave you distance, it gave you a new view. And in that view, you'll see something you'd forgotten, yourself. Still standing, still here, still wrapped in the mystery of time, not broken by it, but held. And in that realization, you may feel something gentle begin to rise, not certainty, not clarity, but peace. And peace at its core is a kind of timelessness. Because in peace, the past no longer clings, the future no longer presses. There is only now, and in now there is everything. And maybe, in the very end, what we come to understand is that time is not a problem to solve, but a presence to embrace, not a test to pass, but a path to walk, slowly, gently, without needing to see the end. The way you walk a forest trail with no hurry, no destination. You're not trying to arrive, you're trying to see. The same way you watch waves roll in, not counting them, not rushing them, but watching, feeling, letting each one pass through your gaze like a moment made of water. Time is like that, fluid, relentless, beautiful, and so easy to miss. But when you notice it, when you really see time, when you feel it like music instead of minutes, it changes you. You stop trying to stretch it. You start trying to fill it with meaning, with stillness, with laughter, with words that matter and silences that say more. You start paying attention to your own story, not just what's happened, but how you've grown through it. You stop measuring life in milestones and start measuring it in depth. You stop chasing more and begin embracing enough. You see the miracle in a day that holds nothing new, yet everything alive. A breeze, a blink, a moment of rest, a familiar voice calling your name like it means something. And it does, because you are here, you exist, and time is letting you do that just for a little while. And in that little while you will cry, you will laugh, you will lose, you will rebuild. You will remember things you didn't know you forgot. You will meet people who feel like déjà vu. You will leave pieces of yourself in places you never return to. And through it all, time will move with you. Not ahead of you, not against you, with you. And maybe that's all we were ever meant to do. Not control time, not defeat it, but walk with it. To walk with time through every season of our lives, through the becoming, the breaking, the rebuilding. Like an old friend who doesn't speak but always listens, always shows up, always gives you another second, another breath, another chance. So if you've ever felt behind or broken or afraid of what comes next, take heart. Time is not leaving you behind. Time is bringing you back to yourself, not all at once, but moment by moment, word by word, breath by breath. And now, in this final breath of this long, curious journey, let it all soften. Let go of the need to understand time. You don't have to solve it. You're living it. That's enough. You are enough. Now close your eyes if they aren't closed already, and let the moment hold you just for a while. Because this breath, this stillness, is the most honest definition of time we may ever have. A fleeting miracle that we get to live. Because time does not really end here. It never does. It just keeps unfolding and softly, gently, quietly, the way light drips over a mountain at dawn. You think it's still night, but somewhere the sky has already begun to change. That's how time moves, not with a shout, but with a shimmer. And even now, in this final thought, it's shimmering through you. It's in the weight behind your eyes. It's in the breath you didn't know you were holding. It's in the part of you that feels both older and softer than you were when this story began. That part is time. And time, as strange and wild and uncontrollable as it is, has brought you somewhere. Maybe not where you thought, but somewhere. Here. And here is good. Here is enough. You don't need to rewind. You don't need to rush forward. You don't need to grasp at meaning, because you've just spent hours sitting with it, and now it lives in you. Every second you've witnessed, every memory you've held, every question you've dared to ask about the nature of time and your place within it has become part of you. And maybe that's all we ever needed. Not final answers, just an invitation to be still long enough to feel the moments soften around us, to realize that time isn't running out, it's running through. And when you let it run through you, not fighting it, not fearing it, you become something else. You become timeless. Not in the way people speak of legacy or fame, but in the way a sunset is timeless. Or a whispered apology, or a moment of real love, or a breath taken slowly with nowhere to be. So take that breath now and let it fill you, not with urgency, but with ease. And in the space that follows, just be. Because this is it, not the end of time and just another beginning. One more quiet opening waiting for you to walk through, not as someone trying to hold on, but as someone finally learning how to let go. And in that letting go, you're not losing time. You're becoming it. You are becoming all the wonder and softness and mystery it ever held. And that, dear friend, is the most beautiful transformation of all. And still, time holds you. Even as you read these words, even as your eyes grow heavy or your breath grows longer, time is holding you, not pushing, not pulling, just holding, as if to say, you don't have to understand me. You just have to trust that I am here, that I've always been here. Because time does not abandon, it does not forget. It wraps itself into everything, the creak of the floorboards in your childhood home, the smell of rain in a place you no longer live, the exact angle of sunlight on the day you first felt free. It keeps these things for you, tucks them away, not to hurt you with them, but to remind you that nothing beautiful is ever truly lost. Not if it was felt, not if it was noticed, not if it was loved. Because love too is a kind of time. It stretches beyond logic, beyond minutes and months and even lifetimes. It lives in pauses, in choices, in the space between words. And just like time, love doesn't always arrive on schedule. It isn't always loud, sometimes it's quiet, showing up in the way someone waits for you, the way they remember the details, the way they hold space for who you are still becoming. You could spend a lifetime trying to measure love, but you'd only end up measuring time, because the two are so intertwined you can't pull them apart. And maybe you don't have to. Maybe the reason time feels so strange is because it was never meant to be separate from feeling. Maybe time is simply what it feels like to exist, to be conscious, to be aware that things change, and that somehow you're still here in the middle of it all. Still learning how to let go, still learning how to hold on, still learning that these two things are not opposites, but partners. Because every moment you let go, you make room, and every moment you hold on, you remember why it mattered. That's time's dance, the giving and the taking, the remembering and the releasing, the silence and the song. And here, in this stretch of stillness, let it all become simple. Let it all be light. Let it all be love. You are not running out of time, and you are swimming through it. Be gentle. You are doing just fine. Because if time is anything at all, it is the soft imprint of everything we've ever felt. It's the way your chest tightens when you smell something that takes you back to a place you thought you'd forgotten. The way a photo can pull tears from your eyes without permission. The way your voice catches when you speak about someone who's no longer here, not because you can't let go, but because a part of them still lives in your timeline, in the spaces between words, in the moments no one else sees. And time, strange loyal time, carries it all. It doesn't erase, it layers. And in those layers we carry every version of ourselves. The child still wide-eyed, the dreamer still hopeful, the lover still aching, the wanderer still searching. You may feel like you've left them behind, but they are not gone. They are part of the architecture now, the invisible scaffolding that holds up who you've become. Time didn't steal them from you. It wove them into your foundation. And every day, whether you realize it or not, you are building something, not with bricks or plans, but with presence. With every decision to stay kind, to keep going, to forgive, to breathe deeper instead of rushing past the moment. And what you're building, it isn't a legacy, it isn't a future, it's a now, and now is the only thing time ever asked you to touch. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, just now. This is the paradox we try so hard to avoid, that time will never give you certainty, but it will always give you presence. And presence is not small. Presence is where eternity touches the earth. So if this is the only moment you have, let it be enough. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. You're alive inside it. And that is sacred. You've come so far through this story, not just the story of these words, but the story of your own timeline, the long arc of your becoming. And maybe if you pause here, right here, and breathe just once with full awareness, you'll feel it. You haven't wasted time, you've lived it. Even the messy parts, even the lost years, even the moments you wish you could do differently. Time is not keeping score, it's keeping space. It holds you, not in judgment, but in quiet awe, because you're still here, still learning, still unfolding, and still beginning even now. And as you sit with it, this idea of time not as a ticking thing, but as a presence that breathes with you, maybe you start to feel something softer open, a kind of understanding that doesn't come from thinking, but from resting, from trusting, from simply letting yourself be without measuring anything. Because that's what time really is in the end. It's not the seconds slipping away. It's not the future arriving too quickly. It's not the past pulling at your heels. It's this breath, this quiet, this hum inside your chest that says, you're alive and this moment is enough. You don't need to make it last forever. You don't need to hold it tighter. You just need to notice it. And maybe that's how we redeem time, not by stretching it out, but by stepping all the way into it. Fully, freely, even if it's painful, even if it's ordinary, even if we're afraid. We say yes to the moment because it's the only one we ever truly have. And we carry that yes forward into the next hour, into the next sunrise, into the next time we look someone in the eye and truly see them, not as they were or how we wish them to be, but as they are. Alive, changing, here, just like us, because time connects us in ways no calendar ever could. Your 5 a.m. could be someone else's 11 p.m. Your moment of heartbreak might be the exact second someone across the world is falling in love. All of us moving through time in parallel, grieving, healing, waking, remembering, never truly alone. And when you close your eyes tonight, whenever tonight finds you, time will not judge you for what you didn't do. It will not scold you for being tired or lost or unsure. Time will simply tuck itself in around you and wait for you to begin again, because time at its core is not about counting. It's about becoming, and you are becoming still, even now, even here, especially here. And so you sit at the edge of this moment, not as someone rushing to reach the end, but as someone who has finally stopped running. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are exactly where you are meant to be, in the quiet, sacred stillness of now. And now is enough. Because now is the only place time ever touches you directly. It doesn't shout from the past or tug from the future. It whispers, here, just there. And when you listen, really listen, you begin to feel the ancient rhythm beneath your skin. The quiet ticking of something older than clocks. A knowing, not in your mind, but in your body, your breath, your being, that this life, as fleeting and fractured and fragile as it may seem, is full. Not perfect, but whole. It was never meant to be controlled, only noticed. And perhaps this is the softest truth of all, that time does not want to be chased. It wants to be welcomed. Like an old friend arriving at your door unannounced, with stories you forgot you still remembered. And when you open that door, not with fear but with presence, you realize you've been waiting for it all along. Not to fix the past, not to guarantee the future, but to remind you that the most extraordinary thing you can do with your life is to be fully inside it. Even for just one moment, even for just one breath. And if that moment is now, then you've already won something that can never be taken. You've lived your time with your eyes open, with your heart open, with your hands unclenched. And in that softness, something timeless opens back, a sense of peace, a sense of wonder, a sense that maybe, just maybe, this strange, beautiful mystery of being alive is enough. So here we are, the end of the thought, the edge of the sentence, and yet, it doesn't feel like an end, does it? Because time doesn't end when the words do. It keeps breathing beside you. It keeps moving beneath you, and it keeps whispering in ways too soft to hear that you're still becoming, that the story is not over, that this very breath, this quiet moment inside you now, is as much a beginning as anything that's come before. You have made it through so many yesterdays. You have stood at the doorstep of so many tomorrows, and still here you are, a little softer, a little wiser, a little more willing to sit with the unknown and not demand it make sense. Because now you understand something deeper, that time is not the enemy. It's not the ticking. It's not the running out. Time is the some space you get to exist inside. Time is what turns random into meaningful. Time is what allows love to deepen and grief to soften and joy to surprise you when you least expect it. Time is not passing, and it's offering, always offering. And when the last hour comes, not just of this video or this story or this day, but of your life, you will not remember how long you had. You will remember how deeply you lived, how present you were, how much of your heart you gave away without regret. And time will remember too, because time is not indifferent. Time is made of everything you've ever felt. And when you feel deeply, when you love, when you mourn, when you laugh and fall and get back up, time opens a little wider to hold you. And that is the true miracle. Not that we live forever, but that we get to live at all, even for a blink, even for a breath, even for a handful of quiet, sacred, fleeting years under these stars. So now take a breath, a slow one, let it in fully, and know that this too is time, time keeping you, time becoming you, time whispering softly, endlessly, you are here, you're here, you are here, and that is everything. And even now, even as the final thoughts settle like dust in soft afternoon light, something in you still stirs. Because some truths are too big for words. They live not in what we say, but in what we feel between the sentences. And time is one of those truths. It doesn't need to convince you. It just keeps showing up again and again, in every sunrise you thought you were too tired to watch, in every song you forgot was your favourite, in every little coincidence that somehow arrived right on schedule. Because time is not rigid, it's not cold, and it's not math. It's mystery and it's meaning. It's the invisible ink behind every page of your life. And maybe, just maybe, the fact that you're still here, still curious, still listening, means you've already answered the question you came with. Not with logic, not with proof or schedule. Proof, but with presence. Because in the end, time is not meant to be solved. It's meant to be shared. With others. With silence. With yourself. And now, as we truly come to the end, not of time, but of this moment inside it, may you carry this quiet with you like a candle in the dark. May it light the way forward, not fast, not loud, but with softness, with stillness, with the kind of peace that doesn't need to last forever. Just long enough to remind you that forever has always been hiding inside the now, and that is more than enough. And still time hums. It hums beneath every choice you make, every word you whisper, every pause between heartbeats. It hums through the way you notice the light changing in a room you've sat in 100 times. It hums through the quiet ache you feel when you see a photo of someone who once called you every day and now lives only in the margins of your memory. It hums through the rituals, brushing your teeth, locking your door, checking your phone, or all things you've done 1,000 times, each time slightly different, each time deeper into the rhythm of your becoming. Because you are still becoming. Even now, or even here, even when it feels like nothing is moving, you're changing, not loudly, not obviously, but steadily, in the way a mountain is shaped by the wind, in the way water becomes ocean, in the way memory becomes meaning. And maybe that's what time wants from us most. Not efficiency, not progress, not speed, but stillness. To sit with who we are, to feel the full weight of what has brought us here, and to soften enough to receive what comes next. Not everything has to be earned. Some moments simply arrive, and your only task is to be present for them, to say yes, to let time place something in your hands and not clench your fist around it, to hold joy the way you hold a small flame, but carefully, reverently, knowing it won't last forever, but also knowing it doesn't have to. Because the point was never permanence, it was always presence, that you were there, that you felt it, that you lived it. And that is enough. Perfect. I'll now continue part 3 of what time really is and why it feels so strange, extending it by around 5,000 words in the same poetic, immersive tone. This segment will unfold slowly, exploring time as emotion, ritual, legacy, and presence. Here begins the next stretch of your journey, and as the minutes fall like soft rain on glass, you begin to feel something new, not urgency, not fear, but a kind of reverence for the simple miracle that this is happening, that in this sliver of the universe, during this strange and gentle hour, you're alive. With a body, a memory, a story still being written. And time is the ink. You don't control the story, not really. You don't get to choose what enters, what leaves, what breaks, or what blooms. But you do get to choose how deeply you live inside it, how softly you hold it, how long you sit with each chapter before turning the page. And maybe that's the quiet purpose of time, not to give you a map, but to hand you a compass, a way to feel your way forward, a way to learn that direction is sometimes more important than sped, that forward isn't always straight, that healing doesn't follow a clock. Some days you will fall behind your own expectations, you'll wonder why it's taking so long to feel better, to understand, to let go, but healing doesn't happen on a deadline. Grief doesn't punch a time card. Growth doesn't arrive in 30-day intervals. It arrives like dawn, unnoticed at first, then suddenly everywhere. And time, if you let it, will hold space for all of it. It doesn't ask that you be productive. It doesn't demand that you explain. It simply asks that you show up, that you be here. even when it hurts, even when it's boring, even when it feels like nothing is happening, because something is always happening, not outside you but within, a thought reshaping and a boundary forming, a fear softening, a strength returning. Time, like soil, grows things in silence. And in that silence, your life is taking root. Even when you feel lost, even when the path feels overgrown, even when the days blur and the clock feels cold and mechanical, still time is working, and maybe that's the kindest truth of all. You don't need to do anything special to deserve the moment you're in. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to win it. You just have to be. And being by itself is holy, because being says, I am here. Being says, I choose to feel this, even if it's hard. Being says, I exist, and that is enough. And in being, you begin to notice the smallest things, not because they suddenly appeared, but because you finally slowed enough to see them. The way the dust dances in the light that sneaks through your window, the way your fingers naturally find the seam of an old mug, the sound your breath makes in the early hours, like wind over water. These are not meaningless moments, these are time's fingerprints, proof that it's not always rushing by. Sometimes it settles beside you. Sometimes time does not move, and you do, through emotion, through awareness, through the deepening of presence. And suddenly what was once just a Tuesday becomes a memory because you noticed it. And now it lives forever inside you, not as a date, but as a feeling. We often speak of losing time, but what if time can't be lost? What if it only changes form? Maybe all the time you spent waiting, doubting, starting over, it didn't disappear. It became strength, clarity, compassion. It became a part of you that no one else sees, but everyone else feels. Because time in its truest shape is not a number. It's a texture, a tone, a presence. It's the heaviness in your chest when you walk through a childhood home that no longer smells like you remember. It's the sweetness in your stomach when you hear someone laugh the way someone once did. It's the ache of memory and the gift of growth, braided together so tightly you can't tell which is which. Time is what allows us to carry contradiction, to be broken and still whole, to be grieving and still grateful, to miss who we were and still become someone new. That's the beauty of the human spirit. It adapts to time without even noticing. You survive things you thought would end you. You outgrew places you thought you'd live in forever. You learn to laugh again in rooms where you once only cried. And time, like an invisible tide, kept pulling you forward, even when you fought it. And you did fight it. We all do. We try to slow it, control it, outsmart it. But time is not a machine to be hacked. It is a mirror. And when you look into it honestly, what you see is not hours lost. You see hours lived, messy, imperfect, beautiful, real. And maybe that's the real work of living inside time, not controlling it, but integrating it. Learning how to let the past breathe without letting it drown you. Learning how to imagine the future without letting it pull you out of today. Because there is a balance, a rhythm, a sweet and fragile tension between what has been and what might be. And your entire life unfolds in that space, the space we call now. And in this now, you are not just who you are today. You are a museum of every version you've ever been. The child who asked too many questions, the teenager who tried too hard to be liked, the friend who disappeared for a while then came back, the lover who didn't know how to stay, the dreamer who almost gave up but didn't. You carry them all, not as burdens, but as blueprints. Each version of you left behind a map, a compass, a scar, a light. They were all part of this becoming, and time, gentle, mysterious time, made sure you kept moving, even when you didn't think you could. And maybe that's the most sacred role time plays in our lives. It protects us from permanence, because nothing stays the same, not pain, not joy, not identity, not fear. And that's terrifying, but it's also grace. Imagine if you'd been frozen in your worst moment. Imagine if the heartbreak, the shame, the failure had become your forever. But it didn't. Time moved, and so did you. You outgrew the ache, or at least you learned to walk with it. And somewhere along the line, you stopped asking if the pain would end, and started asking what it was here to teach you. Because time teaches in silence. It teaches in the space between questions and answers, in the gap between leaving and arriving, in the pause before forgiveness finally becomes possible. And the most generous thing time ever does is give you another moment to begin again. You don't have to go back. You don't have to rush forward. You only have to return to presence right here, right now, still breathing, still becoming, still allowed. And isn't it remarkable how often we confuse stillness with stagnation? How we mistake the quiet seasons of life for failure, when in truth they're often where the most important work is being done. Beneath the surface, out of view, where time doesn't race, it roots. Where the soul doesn't rise, it settles. You may not realize it, but some of your deepest growth is happening in these quiet chapters. The mornings that feel the same, the days that pass without clarity, the spaces between the milestones. This is where your inner world shifts, where new thoughts find their shape, where softness returns to parts of you that have been clenched for too long. This too is time, not wasted, not lost, but invested, in the quiet art of becoming. And it takes courage to sit in that, to stay present when there is no drama, no climax, no grand transformation, to believe that presence alone is holy, to trust that time is not ignoring you, it's preparing you. Because there are things time cannot give you quickly. Wisdom, depth, patience, peace. These are gifts carved slowly, the way a river carves a canyon. You don't see it day by day, but one morning you wake up and realize you've changed. Not suddenly, but deeply. And once you feel that, once you know what slow time has built in you, you begin to treat yourself differently. You stop rushing your healing. You stop comparing your pace. You stop resenting the years you think you lost. And you start seeing them for what they were, a necessary part of your unfolding. Because the truth is, you were never off schedule. You were on your time, your only time. The timeline where you learned the way you were meant to learn. Where you took the detours that brought you the view you didn't know you needed. And time, patient, forgiving time, held you through all of it. And maybe that's the softest miracle of all. That even though time is always moving, always unfolding, always slipping forward into the unknown, somehow it never abandons you. Even when you're lost, even when you're late, even when the world spins too fast and your thoughts scatter like ash, time does not turn away, it stays. It lets you begin again, not by erasing what was, but by offering a new rhythm, one that fits who you are now. Because the person you are today is not the person you were 10 years ago, or last year, or even last week. And that's the quiet mercy of time. It does not freeze you in your old self. It lets you evolve. It lets you unlearn. It lets you return, and not to what was, but to who you've always been becoming. And in that returning, there's a kind of homecoming, not to a place, but to a presence, to a version of you who is less afraid of time passing and more willing to feel it, to let the ache of the past soften into memory, to let the uncertainty of the future become wonder, to let this moment, simple, imperfect, sacred, be enough. You will never be here again. This breath, this version of you, this exact stretch of sky outside your window, this is a one-time gift, and when you realize that, you stop waiting for the right time. You stop trying to make moments perfect, and you stop reaching for the next thing and start reaching inward more. Because everything you need is here, not in the next chapter, but in the space between this sentence and the next one. The space where you exhale, the space where you are. That's the real time. And in that time, everything becomes clear. That you are not late. You are not broken, you are not behind, you are right on time for your own unfolding. So now, as we come to the end of this long, wandering reflection, let the thoughts settle gently in you. You've just travelled through eons, not in a rocket, but in your own quiet awareness. From the ticking of atoms to the silence of deep space, from memories you carry to the mysteries we may never fully understand. And yet, through all that, here you are. Still breathing, still becoming, still unfolding across the soft fabric of time. I hope this journey gave your thoughts somewhere peaceful to drift tonight. Or maybe it offered your mind just enough wonder to hold you in curiosity, even as the world around you grows quiet. If this slow voyage helped calm your racing thoughts, or made you feel just a little less alone in the universe, I'd be grateful if you left a little light behind for us. A like, a comment, a gentle tap on that subscribe button. It helps this small quiet corner find others who might need it too. And now, as time moves gently onward, may your night be calm, your dreams curious, and your heart light. Close your eyes if they're not closed already. Let the weight of the day melt into stillness. And remember, you don't need to understand time, you're already part of it. Good night, friend, and thank you for sharing this moment with me.